Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to cut the slots out in the back of the fuselage for the servos. There's a real easy method for this. There's not really a whole lot of stuff going on. But I cut 4 of these 3/32 plywood pieces here. And the reason I did that is because I want to put them behind the fuselage, against the fuselage. So when my servo goes in, it just bites down. It just gives it something extra to clamp down to. So the way we're going to do this is the rudder is going to go on the right side fuselage. So that's easy enough to remember. Rudder on the right. And the elevator will be on the left. But we want to make them jog each other because they're going to be in the same location pretty much, but one's going to be lower, one's going to be higher. So you want to make sure that you have the thickness. Hey, so you need to trash the place. So you want to make sure you have the thickness when they cross each other. So in other words, this one's going to go in the fuselage this way, and this one's going to come in from the other side, but you want to make sure that the backs don't hit. So we want to make sure that they'll clear each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go by the stabilizer here. I'm going to kind of square it up with a straight edge. Just anything at all that's straight. There's no measurement going on here. And then I'm going to drop it down, maybe 1/4 inch or something like that, just by eye. And take my pen and mark that. And that's where I want the straight edge to my servo to go. So I'm going to cut this square out. I'm just going to draw a real light line on here so it's not too visible from the fuselage. And then from the F7, I'm going to drop down straight with the F7. And then I want to put one of my guides in here, and right up where I started that line. So now I know that I'm going to put my guide back here, and then my servo is actually going to start the hole right against this side right here. So then I'm going to take my servo, put that right where I want it to be, and then I'm just going to trace out the servo. Because you only want the size for the bottom of the servo. You want the top to sit flush against the fuselage. So we'll have to do a little bit of whittling here and there once we get it in, but basically there's where my servo is going to be. I'm going to just zap this to the inside right up against F7 and the fuselage, and then I'm going to do the same thing with another piece on the other side. So this is what these 2 pieces will look like inside the fuselage for that one. And then on the other side I'll transfer this down once we get to the other side. And there we go. So there will be my servo. That's as quick and easy it is to get your servo in there. I'm going to go right around and flip it inside, and I'm going to take my 2 little extra 30/32 ply braces, and I'm just going to glue them right next to the sides. So I'll put some glue on there, and that's where it's going to go, right up next to the cut you made. So basically inside the fuse, I don't know if you can see in there or not. It's going to be right there on this side, and right against the wall on this side. That's why it's good to get your cut out now, and then put these in afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and zap these right in place. I'll do that just by smearing a little CA on there. And it's much easier to do this now. Oops. A little splatter down. Looks like the plans are going to be a little sturdy. And as long as you come right up where your screws are going to be and set it down in there, that's it. Zap up the other one. I love super glue building so fast nowadays. Alright. Just give it a little pressure with your hand. As you can see, I got 2 mounts for my servo. Now I'm going to do this side. Alright, now that I got the hole for this side here, and my servo fits in there, I went and glued my ply braces back there. I saved the cutout that I used from here, and I'm going to use this on the other side to find my other mark. Now, the way I found this mark was I took my piece of ply here, and I just put it right next to where the servo would go. So the servo lip comes here, as you can see, and the servo base fits in the hole, so it should slide right in this way. So what I want to do is I want to put this right up against F7 on the other side, and just to the bottom of the floorboard. So basically what I'm going to do here is find F7, put that right to the floorboard that I got. And just as a guide with F7, I can take a straight edge to the edge of it, and then push it right up against it, so I know I'm pretty close to where I want to be. And then I'm just going to cheat, take my template, and stick it about in the middle of where this is, and that way I'll know that it's lower than the other hole, so my servos won't meet in the back. And I'll draw that couple marks to know where I want to come across. Or you can just trace out the whole template, but instead I'll just draw the marks. So now that I got my marks over here, I went ahead and put my spacer, or my mount, my little square piece. I put that right inside to the bottom corner and just came straight up F7 and glued it in place there. And now to kind of cheat to get a nice mark, I can just flip this over, put my knife right in there and put that right up against that piece in there, and kind of just poke my knife through from the side very lightly. Just want to make a pinhole. So I see it come out the other side, and now I can see that I can come a little further out before I actually cut this piece. So here's where my knife is. So that means that's, if I run that edge down, that's exactly where the end of that board is going to be. So I know I can push my line. I'm going to make 2 marks so I can actually draw it in there. And there's the second one. So now I'm just going to make a remark right there before I go ahead and cut, because I know I can come over this far. That's where I really want the servo to be anyway. So I'm just going to go draw directly down that line. And then I'll extend this over, which means this mark will probably move inside. So it's good to do that if you want, and no big deal. I mean, it's still going to hit the piece anyway. So now I'll cut that piece out. And there we go. The second servo hole is in. Square it up a little better where the former was. Dump the debris out. And now I'll check the fit of this one. And I'm using Futaba regular standard servo, so any standard servo will be fine in this plane. Handles everything just fine. Oh, that's a perfect fit right there. And just check to make sure that they're not hitting each other. They shouldn't be. And you'll notice that the wires are kind of facing this way inside the piece instead of just facing the way that we're going, but that's because I want the servo heads to actually be closer towards the surface. So there we go. We got 2 servos mounted. Now that I've got that out of the way, I'll glue in this last piece, my last bracing piece, and let that dry. We won't need the servos again till the very end, for this part anyway. But we're going to use them to get the throttle servo in there. But now we're going to go ahead and make the cage here. I want to get all the work done. Well, I'm not going to do the cage yet. We have one more piece to run in, my antenna wire. I'm going to glue this piece in. Just get that done quick like. A little bit of zap. And drop that right down to where the side is. And I want it flush up. It can be like a 32nd or 16th, so it's not so tough to get the servo in the hole there. There we go. Just give it a little press and squeeze. And we now have the capability of putting our servos in. Gotta love that. So there we go. 2 holes for the servos. Now we're going to run our antenna wire.